Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where in the world everybody is connecting from. Thank you so much for taking the time to connect with us today on this fine Wednesday. We've got a rock star panel prepared today. We're just giving it a couple more minutes. We have a bunch of people connecting in from the waiting room right now. We'll be starting in about 60 seconds. In the meantime, if everybody drops in the comment where they're connecting in from, we can get the conversation started that way as well. Perfect. We're on the 3 minute mark. I think we can get started. Thank you once again for connecting today for another episode of CMO Peer Talks. Today we'll be covering a big topic: can global content feel local? Key to multi-location customer engagement. For those of you connecting for the first time, as always, CMO Peer Talks is the number one community for franchise marketers to get together, over 3,000 and growing daily. If you have yet to tune in, scan that QR code, join. We host such events on typically a monthly cadency. We'd love for everybody to get more involved. With no further ado, let's kickstart with introductions to our speakers. First, we have Mike. Michael, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi everybody. Obviously, I can't see anybody, but so I'm just talking to a screen. But Mike Klassen, family business, grew up in the restaurant side of things. All you Canadians might recognize the name Joey's Seafood Restaurants, Joey's Fish and Chips. So we manage that. We're actually celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. As well, we have a newer brand called Streets Kitchens, kind of a QSR concept. Streets tacos, burritos, bowls, all that kind of fun stuff. So that's my background.
Mike, great to have you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
William, or also known as Bill if you're on first name basis.
Yeah, I'm usually William when I'm in trouble because it's my Guatemalan mother with the zapato yelling at me. But Bill for anyone else. uh, so Bill DePaula, president of Nibbles Hospitality Group, doing business as Chicken Salad Chick. So I'm a Chicken Salad Chick franchisee here in New Orleans, Louisiana. We've got 5 locations. I was previously a Zaxby's franchisee of 8 locations and a couple other different brands. I've also been chief operating officer for a 250 unit brand called PJ's Coffee. I'm a franchisor out in California for the Lime Truck. If you had seen us on Food Network on Food Truck Wars. And I am executive vice president of development for a growth acceleration group based out of Denver, Colorado, where we take franchise or systems that care to franchise and work with them, help them develop capital, help them develop systems and grow to their dreams.
Bill, so many different things happening, a lot of moving pieces. So thank you so much for connecting today and joining. Uh, do we have Casey with us? Did Casey connect yet? Serge, do we know? I'll do a quick round of Casey. We're expecting him. He's running a couple minutes late from his previous call. Casey Scala, the Vice President of Marketing for RoofMax. He will be joining with us any minute. With no further ado, let's do a quick rundown of the agenda and we'll get started. We will be covering 4 key topics today. Why is localized content essential for multi-location brands today? What makes it so challenging to balance with a consistent global brand voice? What does brand consistency really mean in a localized marketing strategy? And what are the key elements of great local content that still feels on brand? How have your brand scaled local content creation without overwhelming your teams or losing control? What makes this possible? How do you tie localized content efforts back to business impact, whether it's foot traffic, sales, or customer engagement? And we'll close off today's session with a quick Q&A. Uh, As always, CMO Peer Talks is brought to you by Promo Republic. Promo Republic is a marketing tech platform built specifically for franchise and multi-location businesses. We're currently supporting a little bit over 100 franchise brands in a wide variety of industry, from home service, business to business, quick service restaurants. So we have expertise across the entire board to really ensure that there's an established data centralization and delivering custom AI-supported workflows for managing your local marketing efforts across social, reviews, and search. If your brand is facing any challenges with local marketing and maximizing the ROI, or you're just currently reviewing your marketing vendors or your existing tech stack, let's connect for a quick introduction to how Promo Republic can do a quick consultation and see if there's an area to amplify the ROI that you're getting from your local marketing efforts. I'll be sharing my details in the chat below, Serge. If you can do that, that would be great. And let's get started. And we have Casey connecting right now. Let's get Casey in, and the team is all here.
Yeah.
Let's give Casey the quick mic. Casey, great to join. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Apologies for my tardiness here.
No worries at all. We restructured it, and just as we were about to start, passing you the mic for a quick introduction. Casey, want to do a quick introduction?
Oh, yeah. So Casey Scala, Vice President of Marketing at RoofMax. Been here about, I think this is my third or fourth week. So drinking from the fire hose, which was why I was a little bit tardy here. But 20 years marketing, started at Great Clips, came from Citywide Facility Solutions, which is on the B2B side. So a lot of multi-unit franchise experience across the board, experience consumer, B2B, retail. And now, again, like I said, 4 weeks ago, I joined RoofMax.
Casey, a lot of moving pieces, a lot of things going on. Definitely drinking from a fire hose, but thank you for carving out time to join for today's event.
Excitingness, thanks.
Perfect. So let's hit the ground running. We're 10 minutes into the hour. We'll promise to get everybody back into their day in the next 50 minutes. So let's kick it off with the first topic. Why is localized content essential for multi-location brands today? What makes it so challenging to balance with a consistent global brand voice? Casey, you had the mic. I'll put the spotlight on you.
Yeah, absolutely. So localized content, I think, it's the old adage that people buy from people. And I think, unless you're some of the larger global brands like a McDonald's or something like that, which again, I still think there's play there with localization. And we can talk a little bit about some examples that they're doing, which are pretty cool. But for most of our businesses, right, people buy from people, and it's a humanized marketing works. And being able to build credibility within your local market, I think is critical for multi-unit brands, especially because a market in San Diego is vastly different than a market in the Northeast, and a one size cookie cutter approach just doesn't cut it today. So being able to build your presence locally and have a meaningful impact in the communities where your locations are operating, where your employees are working and living. I think from a brand perspective, from an employee engagement perspective, is critical in today's space. And again, I think it's a competitive advantage where if you can nail local, I think it's a competitive advantage to breaking out of the disruption and chaos that is happening online. So I think that offline, localized aspect of marketing is critical for success today.
Casey, well said. Bill?
So I can say safely that I completely agree with Casey on that people buy from people. And there has to be some kind of alignment. I think people try and try very hard to take a brand and they agree with it, they understand it in principle, but getting alignment from your consumer is totally different. Agreement is like, oh, that's really great. I think that's a nice idea. I don't know what I'm gonna, how I'm gonna take part in it. But alignment is when somebody truly understands I'm 100% in. I wonder how I can be a part of this and what I can do to be active in it. When you really like when your culture builds that way and your marketing builds that way, then your guests are your megaphone and you don't have to nearly do as much. That's a lot of what we did here. I believe in I don't believe in expecting anything from anyone that I do not first serve. So one of the marketing strategies we used here for this chicken salad chick grand opening was we went into the community and we found ways to serve their needs before they ever bought a thing from us. And that engagement, that beginning with service, they understood what the premise of the brand was. It matched with the premise of the brand. Spread joy, enrich lives, and serve others. That's what Chicken Salad Chick does. So starting with service was right in line with the through line of the business. And that made the customer understand what our perspective was. And then we transcended becoming more than just about chicken salad. We were a purpose, we're a mission. And we opened without any mailers. I haven't turned on Grubhub, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Easy Cater, or any of my in-house marketing platforms. I have turned on none of those platforms. And we opened this store to the single largest grand opening in company history of 300 locations. And we opened to the single largest grand opening week that Chicken Salad Chick has ever done of 300 locations. And we did the single highest sales in the entire company's history in the first week of our existence. We created brand loyalists. We knew what need we needed to serve. And it shows right here. You take a look at my drive-through. This is 10:30, 10:40 in the morning. And I'm here, I'm backing out onto the street. I mean, you only get that kind of brand loyalty when you build it from customer engagement, and customer engagement is local. They do buy from people, and that's all I know.
Bill,
Yes.
solid gold. Mike, you want to add on those thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I feel like we might be talking in circles here, whoever has to go third, because I obviously agree with both of these guys. And Bill, I'd love to learn more about how you serviced the local community's needs, but I agree completely. I think the world has completely shifted in the last 20, 30 years, wherein 30 years ago, people loved franchises because they knew what they're getting, they trusted them. But with globalization and the introduction of new flavors and just better offerings, and obviously I'm just speaking from the food space here, it's getting harder and harder to compete and also encourage our franchise partners to do what the Bills of the world are doing, right? And those are far and few between, to get a franchise partner like Bill to go out in the community and do that. And because customers crave relevance, and local content builds trust by speaking directly to the unique vibes, the needs, and the culture of each market, right? For restaurants, especially, promotions, events, and even menu items can vary by region. So localized content, lets you promote what actually resonates with that community. And we built program after program to send to our franchise partners, and it's often the ones that actually participate that have more success. So yes, as much as you want to create and keep your brand voice consistency and autonomous amongst your brand, I think encouraging your franchise partners to go and be a part of the community is probably the most important thing here.
Yeah, and you had asked a question about that specifics on how each brand is different. Like, for instance, I was president for a company called Dat Dog. Dat Dog, we talked a lot about how the food and the music were really the lifeblood of the city of New Orleans. So we went out and we sponsored and gave a lot of donations. We did grand opening events for a group called NOMAF, the New Orleans Musicians Assistance Foundation. So we specified that community where they provide a lot of free healthcare and free life services to musicians to be able to build wealth instead of just being gig to gig like they are in in this city. So we targeted a very specific line, and then we used that as the means by which we told everyone that we were all about the musicians and the culture keepers of the city. For Chicken Salad Chick, what we did was we worked with Animal Rescue of New Orleans. We worked with a group called, like, I'm the vice chair for a group called CELI, Career Immersion Leadership Institute. We work with young Black men and women to get them opportunities, paid internships with C-suite and VP level executives so that they have access to decision makers that will get them into higher paying jobs. That's our service to our community members. We also pay our employees twice a year. We pay them for a day off, but we don't pay them just to take a day off. We will pay their full hourly salary for them to go volunteer in the community in which we serve. I don't care where they volunteer. They can do a soup kitchen. They can do a retirement community. It doesn't matter. But we're paying for them to serve the community, and that's in the through line of the brand. Those are the things that sync the business from just being, a big global conglomerate to, no, we're really here for you.
Love the volunteer thing. Love that.
Indeed, there's definitely having basically those values in your mission, and then there's actually putting it forward and executing within your local community. And Bill, with the results shared from that grand opening, clearly you know what you're doing. So hats off. Next question, and we'll change up the order. Mike, as you have the mic, what does brand consistency really mean in a localized marketing strategy? And what are the key elements of great local content that still feels and carries that on-brand feel?
I mean, I know this question is just prompting a plug for Promo Republic, and I'll probably give them one. But obviously, brand consistency, as much as you want to empower your franchise partners to go out and into the communities and do all those fun things, it's more on the social media and the stuff that's visible online where you really have to rein them in and keep control of it, and obviously here's the plug, Promo Republic, helped with a lot of those issues as far as, we could curate the templates and put in our fonts and our brand colors and all these things. So when they did have a local piece of content that they wanted to share, whether it was a giveaway that somebody won at their store or award or employee of the month or whatever, at least whatever they're putting out on their local Facebook pages, looks on brand. We've faced obviously still challenges to this day as Bill probably can attest to, just rogue franchise partners, but having promo as the tool where we can build all that out and then give our franchise partners access, it helps them do it because, these guys are working the restaurants. They're in it every day. The last thing they want to do is try to come up with a piece of content to put out. And they don't necessarily see the value. And with us collecting marketing fees on the other end, right? Like a lot of them are just like, why don't you just do it? And it's just like, we will do it. We'll do it from a high level, right? We know what we're talking about menu wise. We know what our brand guidelines are, but I come back to empowering them to create that local content, but still be on brand, whether they do something in the community as Bill, stated, show that off. You have a celebrity come through or a group or you're doing a fundraiser, promote that fundraiser group to talk about how we have a fundraising program more, right? Anyways, yeah, so I think you want to keep control on it. Well, you have to keep control on it, but you also need to find a common ground so they still feel like it's theirs, I guess is what I'm saying.
Indeed, totally agreed. It's ultimately, for me, when I think of brand consistency, it's overall like, how is this reflective back to the company culture, values, and mission, how the brand would present it, but then having that local flair. And exactly as a great example, this is the event that we're hosting. This is a little league that's within our community, and showcasing that content, that you are indeed a pillar within the community, even though it kind of sways from the overall content plan of the brand. It reflects back to the brand values and shows how that franchisee is a pinnacle of their community. So that's my take. Bill?
I think you described it really well. And I'm going to try and wrap it up into a thing that somebody can take with them, and like just a small phrase. You can change how you may do the the something that is the brand's promise and consistency, but you cannot change why. You can adjust your ideas as to how you may do it. You can't compromise on your ideals as to why you do it. And if you really marry well with a corporate office that truly understands the mission and everybody is mission focused, then Promo Republic becomes the cement foundation. The corporation can become the platform, the base that someone can really stand on, and then all of the layers on that are what the franchisee or the local partner that's corporately aligned can use to flesh it out and bring it into the community and grow it. But without a solid system like a Promo Republic to be able to organize, collate, and sort that, a franchisee doesn't know where to go, what to do, and we don't have access to other people's ideas. You're right. I don't have, dude, I don't have time. I haven't had time to sleep. I've literally been in this building for 16 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 weeks. I've all the other responsibilities that I've had, I have to fit into what has been a humongous opening. So as a franchisee, I don't have time. When the franchisor comes up with great ideas and gives me the ability to see other color with a platform that holds that in a place I can access it, dude, I'm done. I'm all over it. I can use that because then it's speed. I don't have time for some 2-hour, 3-hour debate on what we're going to do something. Give me 20 minutes and then let's go.
Bill, spot on. Last but not least, Casey.
I am less concerned about brand consistency and more concerned with authenticity. At Citywide, right, we had our 3 or 4 core values that, again, are pillars, not values, core pillars that, again, this is who we are, this is what we stand for. But I don't want to control. We had 105 locations, about 450 people in the field that could be brand advocates for us. I did not want to stunt their work. I wanted them to be authentic and I wanted them to be who they are, because that's, again, they have the relationships with our customers. They have the relationships in their local markets. And I don't want to water that down and corporatize. Is that the right word? I don't want to make it corporate. So we had our non-negotiables, and there are 2 or 3 of them. Other than that, go out, be you, capture content. It doesn't have to be Hollywood produced. I would prefer if it wasn't Hollywood produced. Do what Bill's doing right there. He's in front of his store with his phone. Take a video when you're on your job. If you want us to edit it a little bit, we'll edit it for you. But that raw, authentic content is what moves the needle. And I'm not going to limit my team and my franchisees and their staff of producing content. If I'm asking them to produce content, I want it to be as easy, as seamless as possible, and I don't want them to be robots. And that that authority and that autonomy to go out and capture content is what really drove adoption at Citywide. And again, they were authentic with their market, because again, San Antonio, Texas is a lot different than what somebody up in New Jersey is going to capture, the way they speak, the way they talk. And again, I don't want it to be citywide. I want it to be citywide of northern New Jersey. I want it to be Joshua Franks, the sales executive in Omaha, Nebraska, right? That's who I want it to be. Because again, the other part of this is when you're talking about, I think what a lot of brands do is they focus on building citywide, right? And it shouldn't be focused on building citywide. It should be focused on building, at least for us, is focused on building Joshua Franks, the sales executive in Omaha, Nebraska. Build your brand, because if you build your brand naturally, you're going to build your brand locally, and then you're going to build citywide. So get out there, be yourself, and we're here to partner with you and support you, not control you.
Indeed, indeed. Sometimes letting go of the reins and allowing that creative freedom to spark free is what really delivers that authentic content that a brand can never recreate as a franchisee within their local community. So spot on.
Yeah, Casey, I love that. I mean, we have, sorry to cut you off there, Alex, but UGC content, user generated content is so popular right now. And a lot of times it looks more authentic, right? Because it's not professionally done. So, we've ran campaigns wherein we'll reward a staff member at one of our stores instead of going to the franchise partner for them to push it down. Like we try to get in front of the staff themselves. We've run contests like a menu hack, like you come up with a menu item and it might end up on the menu as a feature and stuff like this. And there'll be cash rewards. And we actually just did this menu hack one because we have tried empowering them to do their own UGC content in the stores, whatever that we can share on our pages. But this menu hack one, I couldn't believe the response. I think we had 7 or 8 staff members from each one of our locations kind of submit a thing. So yeah, you leverage the people you have, like instead of using my one social media manager that I have, at the corporate level, technically, I have 15 potential social media managers across 66 locations. So, but it's creating the tools and the messaging and a little bit of a reward, I think, to help promote it.
It's interesting. I would tell the sales and operations people that a parking lot job in Kansas City is no different than a parking lot job in Charlotte, North Carolina. What is different is you, the person who is producing, the person who has the relationship. So I'm less concerned about the product and I'm more concerned about the person, the emotion, the messaging, the relationship side of the local content.
Love it.
Perfect. Next point, Casey, we'll let you take this one from the top. How have your brands scaled local content creation without overwhelming your teams or losing control? What makes this possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So collaboration, obviously having the right tools and the right partners. And I use the word partner very deliberately. I don't want a vendor, I want a partner. And shameless plug, Promo Republic was one of our best partners at Citywide. Again, we were a little bit unique, right? So we were a B2B sales organization. So we were a little bit different. I know not every brand can replicate this. But again, we identified our early adopters, people who naturally were extroverted, outgoing, and we identified those who were influential in the system. So I'm going to get more momentum and buy-in if another franchisee if I give a message to a franchisee to give to the system, right? Nobody's opening my emails. Nobody's listening to what I send out to the system. But if a influential franchisee says, here's what I'm doing, and I'm working with the corporate office to do it, other franchisees are going to buy into that. So finding those early adopters in that test pilot group who can then cascade the message and the execution out there was huge for us. The second thing that we did was, again, using technologies and tools like Zoom and stuff to do interviews. And again, they didn't have to be high produced content. So we just told our team, when you're out there in a job, you need to take photos for quality control anyway. So you're already doing it. It doesn't take a lot to just take your phone out, snap some content for us. And again, we will work with you. My team will help you edit it if it's not what you're looking for. But just going out there and giving them that comfort to go out, create content. You're not doing anything really different than what you're doing today. We're just putting a little bit of structure and process in that. And then letting them tell the story. So when we had our annual convention back in February, we had a whole session on user-generated content and local marketing. And I said maybe 2 words in it. I introduced the session and I closed the session. I let the people who were in the field talk about their experience, how they're doing it, how they implement it, how they're incentivizing it, and let them run it. This is the one instance where you want the inmates to run the asylum. And then I just sit back as the guard and make sure we're not going too far outside the guardrails, but let them run with it, and build out those processes.
Indeed. Yeah, and to build upon that, when franchisees hear a successful case from other franchisees, it's no longer Big Brother corporate preaching to us. This is the impact that franchisee had on the business. I can use that franchisee as a mentor. Let me follow along to what they're doing. Let me just start.
Yeah, don't say I'm gonna set an hour, 10 minutes, 30 minutes to create content. Build it into your natural day-to-day activities, and find small ways where you can capture content, where you can execute it, as opposed to making it a separate action or separate activity, integrated within their day-to-day. And again, B2B business, it's different from others, I know, but that's how we executed it.
Spot on. Bill?
Scaling, scaling without losing control requires simplicity in this day and age, in my opinion. We just have so much going on, and so does the guest. If we overwhelm them with a way in which we're going to market to them with different layers and sides and facets, it doesn't work nearly as well as staying on a very simple premise. We, like, when I was doing Dat Dog, one of the our marketing tagline was "Embrace your bliss." And Dat Dog was a concept where we did everything in the shape of a hot dog. Everything. So we did our hamburgers, chicken sandwiches, fried fish sandwiches, beer battered cod, vegetarian
Gator.
gator,
I
everything.
had Gator one.
Everything. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Everything was in the shape of a hot dog. So that in and of itself is a ridiculous premise. And that was part of the Embrace Your Bliss campaign, because the spokesperson for the Embrace Your Bliss campaign was a pig in a chef's outfit hugging a sausage. I mean, that very Pierre the pig very well likely could have been holding on to a family member. However, that was too good for him to let go. So that ridiculousness, that was part of the brand promise that we delivered on consistently. And we all knew ridiculous was the target. So everybody knew how to go towards the target because we understood it. Same here. Service to others and spreading joy and enriching lives is the target. So it's a very simple, narrow focus goal, but it's got a lot of ways in which it can be done. The simplicity allows for the fruition of great ideas and local content.
Perfectly struck. Mike, thoughts to add upon that?
Yeah, I mean, it's systems, right? Like we can create systems at the corporate level to pass down to our franchise partner. And when they go implement it, it doesn't seem systematic to the local people necessarily, right? Like it still feels like a local feel. So a perfect example of this, and a lot of businesses do this, but we have a fundraising program, like we encourage our franchise partners to go outreach, charity groups, sports teams, churches, you name it, to drive traffic into our stores for a day or 3 days, no longer than a week, and we'll donate 20% of their sales back to that charity organization. Well, you can't just tell a franchise partner to go out and do this because they won't know where to start. They won't know how to communicate. They won't know how to sell it, right? So
Yeah.
the email templates for the cold outreach to how do you find these businesses to reach out to and everything. Like we have a full binder essentially built out for this program. And then it's like, here you go and do it, right? And it's just like a step-by-step, a fifth grader can read it on how to implement this localized program. And that's just one example. We've obviously done lots of different campaigns over the years. One of them being we did a scholarship, a $5,000 scholarship for post-secondary education. And it was creating the tools for our franchise partners to outreach to the local colleges, universities in their area, town specific or location specific postering and messaging. So yeah, I think you just have to kind of hold their hand and give it to them. And then they just have to take it the last 5% of the way. And that last 5% is what's perceived as, creating that local feel and vibe that everyone wants to see.
Mike, well said. Basically, guidelines and kind of like here's your go-to kit. Feel free to interpret it how you would locally. But this is typically what we see, what works. Let's get started. Uh,
Yeah.
well said. Last question, and Mike, I'll let you take this one from the top. How do you tie localized content efforts back to business impact, whether it's foot traffic, sales, or customer engagement? How do you kind of attribute the uplift that was achieved?
I mean, the end goal and everything is bums and seats, right? And sales. And you're always monitoring that. Okay, we had a sales bump here, a sales decline. What went on? Was it the weather? Was it this? Or was it this campaign that we did that drove this extra traffic, right? So, whether it's and one thing I don't think we've spoken about is kind of leveraging, influential people, influencers in local areas, which is another thing that we try our best to manage from the corporate level, because again, like Bill said, we don't have damn time to sit on Instagram and find a bunch of local foodies to drive down into our stores. So I have my social media manager sitting in our office in Calgary, Alberta, reaching out to all these foodies and influencers and momfluencers, whatever you want to call them, driving them out to our VIP nights before a store open, or just getting them in for a free meal. And then it's just a quick kind of arrangement with the franchise partner, and we'll sometimes subsidize the cost of the food that influencer ate. um and to go one step further, do you give that person a coupon code to promote on their own page, right? And then if you have some kind of code associated with in the back of your POS, now all of a sudden it gets easy to track it. um Google My Business, obviously, or Google Business, Google Scores is a nice way to monitor as well. But yeah, there's ways to monitor it, but for the most part, it's quite intrinsic, and you have to kind of dissect the numbers yourself as to what was really going on. But there are ways to get 100% accurate number, but not always, especially when you're doing the local stuff. Like Bill said, his volunteer day, right? Like there's no direct cause and effect of that person going out into the community as far as like, my name's Sebastian. I'm here working this food bank. I'm representing Chicken Salad Chick. Use my code Sebastian. No, but he's there. Maybe he's got the Chicken Salad Chick hat on, and people are asking what he's doing there, and I'm representing my brand. You can't get an exact number from what he did there, but obviously it works.
Yeah, there's definitely certain impacts that can be measured, and then there's certain that take a little bit of creativity to kind of put together. And I'd say it also heavily varies on the industry that you're operating within. When I think of, let's say, a quick service or a casual dining experience that does core revenue through in restaurant dining, like an important Google metric would be navigate to request. That's a bum coming to your seat, basically. Whereas composed to, let's say, in the service world, a conversion from Google over to a website into a lead filler form, that could be another metric to kind of laser hone in and focus into. Bill, your thoughts?
Think we get very worried about quantification. Certain things I think you need to quantify. Like when you send out mailers, like if you do a quad cut mailer, send that out. Yeah, you want to quantify that. Certain things I don't necessarily know that you want to quantify in a traditional sense, but you can tell when you go through your dining rooms. There's feel. It's just a feel. In many ways, one of the things that I look for out of my guests is I want my guests to come in and come in and come in and be regular, and they don't even know why all the time. Sometimes they have other options, but they do this anyway, and they just don't know why. It just feels good. So worrying about what feels good and understanding how to make a customer feel aligned to it, that's really how you measure the business impact. Talk with your guests, see what they say, and tell you whether or not, whether or not they like I get them, they crawl over walls here just to get from the Trader Joe's parking center to come into the business. I mean, they literally will do it because they just feel good when they're here. I've talked to guests, I'm like, thank you for your business. And they're like, Bill, we've been here 3 times this week and we just opened. Why? It feels good to be here. They enjoy the food, they love the product, but there's a mission behind it. That's the impact you want to make. If you're making those kinds of impacts, then you've got a business that's going to thrive, and it's going to thrive without you. That's a really crucial element. It has to thrive without you always being in the business. That's what franchising ultimately must be. If you're married to the business, you're not in franchising. You bought yourself a job. I'm married to this for the past 3 weeks because I had to build it, and it was literally 30% more than even anyone in the corporate office thought it was going to be. But I'm never married to openings like this. I shouldn't be. We can't be. We have to be able to empower teams to live the same missions. They grow your business, and then you monitor it. You manage it like a gardener. You trim it, but you're not trimming the hedges because you need to make it grow. You're making it grow in a direction you want to, but it should be growing out of the ground itself. And what you seed it with is what your culture is.
Culture starts at the leadership.
Always does, always will. My idea, like I talk with my staff about this all the time. And so currently I'm writing a book called Culture That Repels. And my phrase du jour about culture is your culture has to be strong enough to repel people. And I know that sounds ridiculous to say you want it to repel people, but if your culture isn't strong enough to repel the people that you don't want, it's not strong enough to attract the people that you do. And the noise in our current society makes that even more true. It has to be strong enough to repel. But once that culture gets into you, you live it every day, and everybody feels that same. That's what really draws people in.
Nuggets right there. Casey, thoughts, closing ideas?
Yeah, so I'd spent the past 2 years trying to educate and inform our franchisees on the importance of brand. Everybody, all of our franchisees, they want leads, they want revenue today. And the bigger picture is I want to give you revenue today, but I'm more interested in making sure I can give you revenue tomorrow. And if you want to build a sustainable business
Yes.
that's going to be here 5, 10, 15 years, there are some things that aren't going to come back today that you need to invest in, right? And I'll give 2 examples. We have, again, a location in Omaha where one of our sales guys is, again, super. He was one of the advocates early on, adopters, posting a ton of content on LinkedIn. And they had an opening for another position, and the person that they hired, they asked, well, how'd you hear about us? And that person said, I saw Josh posting on LinkedIn, and it looked like a really fun company and a company that I wanted to work for.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not revenue, right? That you're not going to see that on a P&L. But that's huge impact. So people don't, think about just the employee being an employer of choice, especially in today's space where there's, again, it's hard to attract talent, and everybody's competing for the top talent. What are you doing to stand out? And localized content, getting involved in your community is the easiest way to do that. The second thing is around sponsorship. So we have a location in Indianapolis, and they are partnering with the Indiana Pacers. Huge investment on their side of things, and when they were looking at the deal and whether they wanted to go through with it, like, hey, this is a big investment. How am I going to know that it's worth the investment? And I was talking with the franchisee again at our convention last February, and I said, hey, how's that partnership going with the Pacers? Is it getting you jobs and things like that? Said, yeah, it's getting me jobs, but I'm not really looking at the jobs. People are finally recognizing our location because of the sponsorship, and it's opening up doors, and people want to, if you're good enough for the Pacers, you're probably good enough for me to talk to about my business. And again, Pacers, they're a good team. They're in the playoffs. Last year, there was this, again, and you can't buy this, and it was luck of the mill that we got it, but there was this image that was plastered on ESPN. It was this iconic end of game photo, and sure enough, our logo's in the top. And I said, oh, Bob, that's great. We got a ton of media value for that. He's like, actually, I got 2 jobs for that too, because it was in our newspaper. People saw Citywide up there. And again, oh, you're partnering with Indianapolis Pacers, you're part of the community, you're not only spending your money to invest in the community, you want to be part of our local community here. And again, we want to work with businesses who are giving back to the community. And yes, there's dollars, exchange, and people know that you're paying for that. But if you're willing to invest in your community, it's going to open up doors for a ton of opportunities beyond sales, beyond employee engagement. And again, it's not something that you're going to see on a traditional P&L today. But if you're going to invest in your business for tomorrow, you need to get there.
Casey, I'm sorry. I totally agree with you on that, but it is going to show up on the P&L. It may not show up on the P&L, quote unquote, but it's going to show up because you won the talent war. That's so smart. I mean, that's so smart. I focus on that. I talk about that a lot. I had a really great guy I knew that used to tell me this. He said, it's 4 walls and cold food until the people showed up. But the focus that he had was on the guest, the external guest. I focus heavily on the internal guest. My guest experience, the guests I'm worried about are the internal guests, the employees. And if I worry about every piece of their experience, then they're going to worry about the external guest that pays for it all. But we have to think about the internal guest and what is their experience like with our brand? Do we live up to the promises that they need in pay, in schedule, in treatment? The reason why I do the volunteer program the way I do it is I want them to feel passionate about something that they volunteer. I don't want to tell them what they volunteer for. I don't want to be, this is the only place you can go. You do what you're passionate about. And the fact that the business stands behind what they're passionate about aligns them to the cause. And that's how we win the talent war. I pay $1,000. I do a $1,000 loan program with my employees. Any employee that's been with me for more than 6 months and is an employee in good standing can borrow up to $1,000 from us, interest-free and penalty-free, and there are no origination fees. And we do a payroll deduction in order to get that money back. But we've had employees use that to buy cars, take vacations, pay rent when they couldn't, and then it actually springboarded them into better jobs with us and the ability to grow. Being there for the employee when they need us and they don't have somewhere else to turn is the way that we align ourselves and win in the culture war.
Yep.
You create that culture for your employees and they'll shine that to your guests.
Correct.
Perfect. Well said. We're going to take some questions. We're coming up exactly on the 10-minute mark. We're doing great on time. If anybody has any questions, whether it's overall to the topics we covered or specifically a follow-up question to one of our speakers, now's the time. Don't be shy. We got the first question coming in. Nicole, how do you battle pushing local content to city/state states when there is multiple franchisees and locations? This often creates competition between the franchisees rather than unity. Who wants to take a crack at that?
I mean, we run into this issue, Edmonton, which you're familiar with there, Alex. We have quite a few locations up there. So when we do have ideas or things that we want to push, or a franchise partner comes to us with a promotion they want to run, the goal is to get everyone on the same promotion and sell it to them, just so everyone feels included. We can build a campaign around the entire city. Now, obviously, localized content to each specific store, that's for the franchise partner to look at with the other franchise partner, and hopefully it creates some competition that the other franchise partner then wants to reciprocate or do even more. But if it comes to promotions, coupons, or a bigger overarching project or promotion, yeah, we would try to get the entire city or town on board with this, doing the same thing.
I love competition. You know who are some of the most competitive people? Franchisees. Franchisees want to win. Pit them together, right? Yeah, Bob's doing this. Don't you want to do this? Right? Exactly. So, I mean, you can compete, put them together, or like Mike said, bring them together and say, hey, look, the bigger and the better that we build our brand locally, it's going to impact everybody in that local market. And yeah, you know, a customer might go into a different store across town and it's not your store. But again, the goal isn't today. The goal is I want people to continue to come into my store. And I'd rather a customer come into my store than our competitor store across the street. So it's collaboration. But again, it is competitiveness and getting those people who are aggressive and want to win, get them on board, and bring everybody along with you for the ride.
Mike, anything to add on?
No, I love it. Yeah. Like a lot of times when somebody wants to do something, the other franchise partner will either get mad that they're doing it or they'll just kind of give in and do it themselves. And then it's just like, who can do it better? We now have more marketing dollars to spread across probably a greater area and a greater draw. So it ends up being a win-win, but it's something to, make our jobs a lot easier too. We can't have 40 different locations running 40 different promotions that we're creating graphics for, running Facebook ads, Instagram ads, all these fun things. So we really try to rein them in, and it's our job to do as much as possible so they trust that we're doing stuff with their marketing dollars versus them thinking that they have better ideas all the time, which sometimes we do get great ideas from our franchise partners. Sometimes we have to rein them in a bit and be like, hey, we've done this before, it didn't work very well. So it's just getting them on the same page and coming up with a program that works for everybody.
Perfect. Any other questions from the audience? Now would be the time. And don't be shy. Any question is a good question. Tough crowd.
Well, just to speak to local marketing efforts that help drive and retain, the guest. For everyone that really is looking to get business on this call and keep it going, the three pillars you really want to focus in on are frequency, spend, and occasion. If you can focus in on how to create more frequency, how to increase the spend on each visit, and how to create an occasion that they have in order to take your product, that's going to drive sales, certainly in a restaurant environment. I mean, I deal with a lot of restaurants. It's mostly what I've done. But focusing in on those three pillars, how do your local marketing efforts, how do they draw that? How do they make those kinds of things happen? And I would challenge every franchisee to look inside themselves and see, what is it that I've done to really engage myself with those three premises, with my guests? How many times am I going into my dining room, shaking hands, kissing babies? Certainly not in the reverse order. That doesn't work quite as well. But shake hands and kiss babies and get out there and ask questions. How well have you done at empowering the people that are at the point of attack, the tip of the spear, the spot where the guest, the internal guest, meets the guest, the external guest? How well have you done empowering those individuals there to farm information for you? How well have you done at getting them purposed to be able to know what to say in order to get them to do the things you want them to do? So every single interaction, every question, they should have the plan for what's the backup question? What's the next thing you're going to do? Hey, how I've got a party where I've got this many people, but it's happening in this day and I've got to get it here. Do they have the answer for that? Do they know how to get business cards on people? Do they know when they hear certain things to ask certain questions to get other things? They should be farming everybody that comes in this building. The price that they pay for the chicken salad is not the price. The price that they have to pay is far higher than that. I need their information. I need to know, I've already got them here. Now, how do I get them there? How do I go out to where they are and get them? And then how do I get them to come back? So it's got to be a system of farming the customer that's coming into the building. That's a true marketing system that you can build sales with.
Casey, Mike, any closing thoughts on your side, gents?
I would just say, one of the feedbacks that I got early on is I kept hearing, hey, the only people who are engaging with our content are our employees. And I said, that's awesome. That's perfect. That's what we want. Because again, we go back to people follow people, people connect with people. I don't know what the statistic is, but 10% of the total social media users create 90% of the content, right? So most people aren't engaging and liking content either. So my goal isn't that I'm getting a ton of customers to come and like and share our content. I'd love it. But my goal is to get the employees to produce content, to share content. And I just want to get in people's scroll. I just want to show up when people are scrolling. Because again, the more you show up when they're scrolling and they drive by your store, they're going to remember you. So don't get discouraged if the only people who are engaging with your local content are the local people that are working for you. Don't get caught up in some of the vanity metrics like likes and shares. Those are important too, but again, just repetitiveness. Get people familiar with your company, get in front of people, get in the scroll. And it's a journey, but if you're consistent with it, it's going to pay off.
If I may answer two of the questions that are in the chat, thoughts on how loyalty programs, signups impact frequency and spend. It's massive. It's absolutely massive. It's everything at the Chick, certainly, because that loyalty program rewards them. I'm giving away so much. And franchisees get very short-sighted on, oh, well, you have these stars program. You're giving away this. They get a free that. No one that understands the loyalty process cares about what you give away. It's what you get in return. Your mentality always has to look. I'm an immigrant's kid. My mother was born and raised in Guatemala, and my father was born and raised in Sicily. I think like an immigrant. If I'm giving you a chicken, I sure as hell am getting back a turkey. Everything I do, I give you a chicken, I'm getting a turkey. So use your loyalty program to get turkeys. Where do the turkeys come from? Frequency, spend, and occasion. And that's things like, hey man, look, if you sign up, you're getting $1 off. Hey, if your birthday, hey, I'm going to reach out to you, because the more signups you get, you got to take that loyalty program, get that information, and go reach out to them. Don't be lazy. You got to go get them. Franchising, you are in business for yourself, but not by yourself. The system is giving you ways in which you can reach your customer, but you got to go get it. I got to go get it. The only way you turn your parking lot into this is you go get it. Look, there's not a space. I don't have a space open. They're parking over here. How do you do that? You do that by making people brand loyalists, talking to people, talking to families, making them drive around and come to you. The other thing in the chat is, what are the ways you encourage franchisees that don't like using social media to post local content? Do you have any data? Here's my data. That's my data. My other data is, when you're doing it right, I have trash pickup every single day, because if I don't, I got trash spilling out onto the street. That's the data. The data is very clear. And frankly, I'd make it a KPI if I were a franchisor. I used it as a KPI quite often. Franchisees that engage heavily in their social media platforms simply perform better than ones that don't. And especially if you want to do local outreach. This is where the win is. Parking lots that look like this only come from really great quality social engagement and personal direct engagement with people. That's how it's done.
I agree completely, Bill. And I won't speak to the loyalty club because we're still going through an implementation on that. But like you said, how do you encourage franchise partners who don't necessarily use social media? Well, we show them the sales of the stores that do, to be honest. That's what we do. And then it's just like, okay, this guy's doing it, you're not. Where's the disconnect here? And then maybe they click in, or they keep doing what they're doing. And if you keep doing what you always do, you'll always get what you've always done. So it's we empower, we try our hardest to get them to do it, but we're not there to hold their hands from open to close. So
one interesting thing that, again, it requires some investment on the corporate side of things. And what we did at Citywide, and we built the structure for this, is if you don't want to do it for you, or if you don't want to do it yourself, we'll do it for you. You're going to charge you a fee, right? And we had we had about 35 to 40 franchisees who were leveraging us to do something, whether it was social media, email marketing, lead generation, beyond what we do from as part of the marketing fund. But we went out and said, okay, we'll do it for you. You focus on selling and servicing your customers. We're going to do it for you. We weren't charging them very much. I think social media was like $300 a month, right? And we worked with them and said, okay, your content's going to be a bucket of content that we're going to produce across the system. But you're going to commit to give us birth dates, give us anniversaries, give us ways that you're getting involved in your community. Take a picture. You're out at a local fundraiser. Just take a picture, send it to us. We'll make it look pretty for you, but we'll do it for you. And then again, as they grew, they took, they said, okay, we see the investment, we see the return. We're going to hire somebody to focus purely on marketing now and do it. But again, it takes a little bit of time to structure internally. But you don't need a lot of people to handle it, because again, you're not creating a unique piece of content for every single location, every single day of the week. It's just sputtered in with other content that you're already creating.
Indeed, well said. And then my closing thoughts, I guess, to two of those questions would be on the loyalty app. Indeed, it goes back to Bill's point about farming data. Loyalty apps allow you to have immense customer data, how they're engaging with, what products are they engaging out of your restaurants with, what is their frequency of purchase. Could we do some targeted personal offer if they haven't purchased from us in a while? Can we effectively leverage data to activate a review generation strategy to help locations build more credibility within their communities online? So really, the sky is the limit when it comes down to loyalty apps, and really the golden nuggets are quite measurable there. And then my thoughts on encouraging franchisees who don't get involved would be, ultimately, it's like, why did you join a franchise system? Because at the end of the day, as a marketing director, we can jump brand to brand to brand. You bought into a system of a brand that you absolutely love. Let's get involved and let's reflect that on social media as well. Here are examples on how to get started. I think on that note, we're 3 minutes over. A huge thank you to our speakers, Mike, Casey. I see Bill had to hop off. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your nuggets. Participants, thank you so much for joining and carving out an hour to connect with us today. Wishing everybody a productive week, and I hope everybody got some nuggets to take away and bring back to their brands.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. And nice meeting you, Casey.
Yes, nice meeting you guys as well. Thank you so much. I don't know if there's a location here in Kansas City, but I'm gonna go see. Was it
Chicken salad, chicken salad chick.
Chicken salad chick. Bill sold me on it. So
It's definitely worth a stop.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
all.
Thank you.